Did you ever foresee this sort of reality for yourself where you would be in your 50s, having already hit the C-suite, facing a firing and then not being able to find a job?
Truth be told, I was still feeling the burnout of being a 5-time CMO and really busting my ass for 10 years nonstop, working long hours, hopping on planes to go for these pointless meetings, like all of this stuff that I didn't realize at the time what was taking its toll. I am only just figuring out things like the importance of work-life balance, mental health, investment in family and friends, things like that I sacrificed for so long in a career chasing titles and raises and respect, whatever it was, just to reach the exec level and realize it was never going to be enough. In 2023, I got fired for the first time in my life. I just found out that I am been diagnosed with prostate cancer. And the fact is, because I was focused on my health, they caught it early. I think our future is that we're all going to have several jobs, and they might be all vastly different.
Welcome to It Gets Late Early. Today, I am joined by my friend, Daniel Incandela, who was a past colleague, actually, during the Zoom COVID era. So he and I have we met? Honestly, I don't know if we actually have. I'm like, you're so familiar to me because you were all over the organization because you were the chief marketing officer at Conga when I was there. And he was a leader who was universally beloved by all of the people on the marketing team with whom I worked super closely. And since then, we've actually gotten to know each other, again, still remotely. And he's become a friend of mine and wanted to bring him here to share his experience in his 50s in this realm of corporate, finding employment, overcoming life's obstacles, going through it, and basically like how things don't always turn out the way you would imagine they would, because man, life happens and stuff gets real. So welcome, Daniel. I'm so glad you're here.
Thanks for having me. And I am proud to call you a friend as well. And I'm glad we've figured out how to do that.
Likewise. Yeah. So you were the leader that everyone talked about so fondly, as I mentioned. Like people really adored you. And what has happened in your career has been a shock to me as an outsider, as someone who saw a chief marketing officer and thought, oh man, that guy's set. Like that guy, he'll get job after job, he'll leapfrog to the next company, the next better opportunity. And you see it often, right? And I think as I was going through building my own career, I always thought to myself, if I could only just hit that like C-suite or even VP, right? Then I'll just be set. What's happened for you?
Well, hindsight is everything. And looking back now, it all makes so much sense. So if we do rewind to our days of Conga, which was a wonderful company with a great culture, great leaders, and I had a fantastic marketing team. So it made my job really easy. But it was 2020. And during that time, it was this scramble to work from home and then pivot on marketing on how are we going to make offerings, selling into nonprofits, all of that stuff, coupled with we were going through a merger/acquisition.
That was rough.
And my wife was pregnant. And so we had a baby that year. I also had a little one at home during all of that, essentially working nonstop. And a few months later, going into the fall, I got recruited to go somewhere else. And so I jumped to that opportunity. But what I should have done is taken a break. I was so burned out from all things COVID, like so many of us were. But I just didn't see that or believe it. I assumed my role was to keep going, keep chasing the career accolades and just keep going. But I was really burned out. And so I think it's safe to say if I take responsibility for things in the past few years, I'm not sure I've had my A game because I wasn't capable of it. I don't think I was doing a poor job. I was certainly putting in the effort. And so I think that's me accepting responsibility for how my career has gone, but also coincide with post-COVID and this big push from companies to go to profitable growth, which has had a huge impact, as we've seen with layoffs, but certainly in marketing, big impact on program spend, investment, headcount. And so that has just been a bit of a roller coaster for all of us. In 2023, I got fired for the first time in my life, which has set me on a path now, which I'm incredibly grateful for. Again, hindsight. At the time, I'm not sure I believed that, but it triggered a number of things for me. It's shocking. It's certainly a hit to the ego, and then a lot of sort of self-analysis. But this coincided with my mom, who was super sick at the time. And then I suddenly had more time to take care of her, which was wonderful. The job market plummeting, especially within marketing, and me noticing that in the past, I would get tons of outreach from headhunters all the time. And then that totally dried up. Still has. And some of that was market related. Potentially, maybe it was, my reputation or just looking at some of my tenure. But also, like, I turned 50. I'm now 52. The gray is coming through. And so I was going through all of that, but it gave me the time to take care of my mom, which is a gift that I will forever be grateful for. She passed away, but I was able to be with her the whole time. So, like, that's one of the coolest things I think I will do as a human being. And so after that, I got really serious about, okay, what am I going to do? And so I made the decision to get more serious about consulting advising. And so that was both a decision I made and a decision I think that was forced because the full-time roles were not coming in. And truth be told, I was still feeling the burnout of being a 5-time CMO and really busting my ass for 10 years nonstop and working long hours, hopping on planes to go for these pointless meetings, like all of this stuff that I didn't realize at the time what was taking its toll. And so in the past, I would say year, I've been focused on consulting, and I'm not a salesperson, but in this role you are. So I've been learning how to do that, which has been fun and awful all at once. And now we're here today. So the work that I do now is, I would say, divided into 2 parts. I am providing interim or fractional chief marketing officer services where I drop into companies and help them, which is a blast. And then I do project-based work, which is, I would say, divided between brand strategy and building out messaging frameworks. And that's what I do today.
A lot to unpack there. That was a lot that you went through, and a lot that, so many of us are going through right now, right? I mean, I think that we all kind of have collective PTSD for what we all went through and endured during the pandemic. And that, I think, is still reverberating across our organizations, across our communities and our families. And you also spoke about, something that's very real, which is caregiving and the toll that can take. And I think it's really great to see that you have such a positive outlook on, what that period was for you. Getting fired is painful. Losing your job in a layoff is painful. It strikes at the very core of who we are because we're told who we are is the work we do in this society.
Yeah, totally.
And yeah, and it's heartbreaking the extent to which that damages us emotionally, and how that then has a ripple effect throughout our community. This world is shifting to more of an Uberification, gigification of white collar work. And like it or not, it's coming. It's how it's shifting. So you're in it. How's it been?
That's really well put, because this creator economy with emergence of AI and the direction that corporate America is going is exactly how you described it, in my opinion. I think you're absolutely right. And figuring out how to be a successful consultant has forced me to embrace all of those things. If I was still full-time as a CMO and doing all of those things, I might be doing some of this, but not the way I am today. And I'm really grateful as well that I often refer to myself not as a consultant, but as a one-person agency now. The amount of work that I can do for a client that goes beyond just me, but the way I'm leveraging AI and my expertise to think about things. If we had had this conversation in 2020 at Conga, I would have I would have laughed at you. Like, there's no way this was going to happen, but it's here. And I think our future is that we're all going to have several jobs, and they might be all vastly different. But another thing I have learned too is what I really appreciate about some of the younger generations in our workforce is that they have seemed to figure out things about life that as a Gen X person, I am only just figuring out, right? Things like the importance of work-life balance, mental health, investment in family and friends, things like that, that I sacrifice for so long in a career chasing titles and raises and respect, whatever it was, just to reach the exact level and realize it was never going to be enough. And so I am valuing more, how do I improve myself as a human being? How do I invest more back in my family and friends and make up for lost time, my health? And I love to see up younger generation because they kind of have that figured out. And so they're also more diligent when they choose a role. Whereas before, I'm like, oh, I'm being courted. That's wonderful. That is doing something to the ego. I'm getting like fun things happening in my brain. Sure, I'll take more money. Meanwhile, like you get in and sometimes you've gotten it right and it's an incredible leadership team and a supportive board and all of that. And then sometimes you get in and you realize this is a fucking shit show.
Yeah, been there.
And my level of authenticity and my inability to not speak my mind is going to get me in a lot of trouble here. And
Yes.
so I've also gone through that in the last 18 months of, it's not that I wouldn't go back to full time. It's just, I think it would have to look very different, which means it's also going to be more aligned to what I value, which means I'm going to be a better leader and do better work, blah, 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 all of that stuff. So the future's in the hands of the younger generation, and I'm excited for them.
I love the way you framed that up. I couldn't agree with you more. I think that the world as it is today looks very different for people in younger generations than it did for older generations at the same age for them. It's just you can't have the same life that the older generations were able to build for themselves. It's just a fact. And I'm not allowing that to be an excuse for, intergenerational warfare and anger leverage at the older generation. But I think there needs to be an understanding from older people that these two things, it's apples and oranges, man. Like, you cannot do this kids don't want to work hard these days thing and not acknowledge that you could buy a house for like 50 grand forever ago. It's just, you can't do that. It's not fair. And I think their awakening to what really matters in life is in large part due to the fact they can't get those things by working hard. So Daniel, you're like a super human focused leader. Like, I know when we talked last, you were telling me how one of the things that you set out to do during this period where you had a little bit more time and flexibility since you weren't a full-time CMO was you made it your mission to ensure that you were connecting with people in your network solely to help them. Like, you helped me. You came to me and you're like, let me help you figure out some of your branding and messaging. And you did that so kindly. And you made it, I think it's kind of core to who you are, this giving and looking out for others, which is amazing. So when you think about leadership in the age of AI, in this time where like it seems like humanity is slipping from our fingers in a lot of ways, like, what are your thoughts on how people can show up and make a difference for their employees at this point?
Well, I think it starts with authenticity. And that's something I've always put forward as something I wouldn't compromise, for better or for worse. And kindness and helping others is a core principle to me. So I wouldn't recommend others do that if that's not a core principle, like do your
Fair.
own, but it happens
It's
to
got to
be
be
mine.
real.
And I think certainly with the way this world is changing, I strongly believe that kindness is the answer. And so it makes me want to double down on that even more so. In relation to leadership, I was so fortunate right at the beginning of my career to have some epically awful bosses.
That's awesome.
That showed me the way. They showed me not what I should not do or how I should not treat people. And again, like looking back, hindsight, I'm so grateful to them. I wasn't at the time. Like, I hated it. It was miserable. But with time, I realized like they played a huge part in shaping me as a leader. And so I had that experience, which kind of put me on a different path. And I was lucky to have parents that were very kind to others and always helping. And we had people always in our house or staying with us as a way of helping. And so that's carried with me. And I've realized certainly leading marketers is that if you can help them be marketers and get them approvals and give them freedom to make decisions and get out of their way, they're going to love the work. And so that's kind of how I viewed my approach as a leader. I think very aligned to servant leadership. But at the same time, like I have very high standards, so I want to hit those. But I've also realized that if you're going to be kind, you also have to be direct.
Mm,
And it's
100%.
hard to be direct. It's very uncomfortable. I happen to love uncomfortable situations, so I kind of thrive in those. But I've also realized a pattern throughout my career in that a lot of people never get feedback professionally.
Mm, so true.
That performance reviews are fluff.
Yeah.
And
Written
so
by
the
AI now. Yeah.
probably. And
Hmm.
so the act of investing in someone and trying to help them and coaching and being direct also creates a bond. And I've really enjoyed that process of trying to help others. But it's also because I've had mentors along my career that saw something in me that I didn't, and that had a profound impact. So I'm also, in my 50s where it's like that, it's my time to help and give back because I think that's really important right now as well.
Yeah. That's fantastic. And I know that especially younger generations now, especially those who didn't have the benefit of actually being in person in the white collar workforce, like actually going to an office, right? They're fumbling through this. And there's so much hatred thrown at them for, not being professional. How did any of us learn how to be professional? It was like literally going to the office and working side by side with people. It wasn't like something that was just innate, right? Our
Correct.
organizations and our universities are failing younger people in providing them with the how to and how not to, right, in the corporate environment. And it's just deeply unfair. And it's really ageism, frankly. So I love that you have the desire to give back. And I know that so many people of the younger generation want mentors and can't find them because organizations do not deliberately and intentionally set up intergenerational collaboration. It's such a miss. It's such a huge miss.
Correct.
So I love that you go out of
Correct.
your way to pay it forward. And I wish more people did that. I really wish more people did that and proactively, right? It's one thing to have your organization say, we're pairing you up with so and so and like go be a mentor. That can be a little bit awkward, right? But like to really seek it out and to find the people who you see who have a lot of potential and to take the time to share the how to's and the how to nots, right? Like I think that's really a gift that is rarer and rarer these days because I also think we're all just trying to get by. Like we're all
We
just
are.
like so
We're just trying to make it.
overscheduled, right? And I often marvel. I'm like, how does anyone do this? We live in a society where it's damn near impossible to have a single household income. Almost everybody needs to have two people earning to take care of their families, right? And it's like the society isn't built up to support that. And so now what's free time? Do you know what that is? Like, what? And it's like, so when's the time to rest? And I think it lends itself to creating a lot of situations like what befell you, right? Where you were just like totally burned out and a shell of yourself, just trying to do all the damn things, right? It's unsustainable. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
broken. The system is
Mm-hmm.
wrong and it's hurting all of us. It doesn't matter, your gender or anything else. It's like everybody is in pain for this. It's really
Yep.
tough. Really, really tough. I
Well, what a
I also
buzzkill,
want
huh?
to I know. I'm like, God, this is depressing. Let's talk about something more uplifting. So you are a creative guy, a very creative guy and a great writer. So let us know, what have you been up to on the creative front?
Well, there's certainly built out more time for myself than I used to previously, which has been really healthy, which has included more baking. I love to bake. I started composting during COVID, and that has now evolved into starting with seedlings. So I'm growing all these things, and that I found is very creative. And I'm reading more. I used to be an avid reader, and then when I started working, just stopped. And now those sprouts are growing for me too, which is wonderful. It's wonderful to feel like things regrowing, regenerating, so to speak. I am a photographer, but I'd say mostly I've focused a lot on what I do around writing. That to me is therapeutic, but also when I am writing, it's feel the most alive in creating something. So, like every white guy, I started a Substack several years ago, and
At least you don't have a podcast
not yet.
yet.
I'm not going to do that. It's too cliche at this point. It's got to be something different.
You need a
Uh,
Patagonia vest to just really like nail it.
I don't
Yeah.
own one.
Oh,
Yeah.
see, there. Okay, you're good then. You can go forward with the podcast.
And so I wanted to write for myself. And so that's what I do. It's been going on now for almost 4 years of a monthly issue where I write about all the things that I find interesting. I love surrealism, love movies. I have a lot of different interests. So I write about those like everyone. I pull in things professionally that I'm working on or lessons or screw ups, things like that. Do interviews with other people and just try to write it in a way that's authentic and entertaining and funny. And so I actually have some subscribers, which is shocking to me. So
I'm one of them.
thank you
You'll
very
have more
much.
after this interview.
Thank you.
Um,
So that's what I do, and I love it. It's just an important part of my life now. I think it's a good routine, just like therapy. Like I have a therapist that I love talking to. I view writing right up there with her.
I love that. Yeah. Props to all the therapists out there. I think you have plenty of work. I know from my own personal experience that my life has not turned out the way that I thought it would. My career was, this was not on the roadmap for me at all to be doing this instead of climbing the corporate ladder. So we never really know where it's going to go, right? But, I always had the sense that like if I hit that C-suite, I'm like, I'm good. And so I know part of the reason I was ambitious was I was like trying to for as a self-defense mechanism. And so like I gotta ask you, like did you ever foresee this sort of reality for yourself where you would be in your 50s having already hit the C-suite, facing a firing and then not being able to find a job? And had you planned for that in any way, shape, or form, like financially or mentally?
I would say I had intentionally planned for that. However, I had, I had made more money than I ever thought I would in my life through salaries and bonuses and like some tech outcomes. I think that we're lucky, but not life changing, but good. And so I was in a good financial position, not necessarily in that position now, but I certainly had a great safety net. So you get fired, you get severance, which feels great. And it feels like it's enough time. Maybe it was back in the day. It was not for me, and I don't think it is for a lot of people today because of the job market. And then you're slowly watching your accounts go down, right? And then you're transferring money out of retirement to cover mortgages and stuff like that. So I have been through all of that. And then you're building up a consulting. And well, it's not like you reach out to someone and then you have a job and you get paid that week. Like it takes weeks, if not months, to figure that out. And it did for me. So I've certainly watched money go flying out the door. So that has been, I'd say at the time, was really, really difficult because it's ego or pressures from society. But like, wait a minute, I'm this 52-year-old white man that was an exec. And now like, I'm not in this great financial position. I have colleagues and friends that are doing great. Like they're not having this issue. Like what's wrong with me? It's kind of embarrassing, like all of that stuff. But, I've been on this journey that I think I really needed in life. And it's helped me awaken, I think, from things that I did not see. And yeah, I wish I had that money back. And by the way, my wife was forced to close a business recently, so now we're in more debt. So
Oh God, I'm
that's not
sorry.
fun. But our attitude is like, we can make more money. So that's okay. But I have been able to have the time to do so many things in life that are important to me. I mentioned my mom, right? As a consultant now, I have the time. I take my kids to school every day or pick them up like every single day. I get to grow seedlings, which sounds so ridiculous, but like I'm doing things that like fill my
Move
cup,
you.
so to speak. And another thing is that it gave me time to think more about my health. And so, I've started running again, which I wasn't doing when I was working full time because I was working or traveling and not focused on that. And going to the doctor when I'm supposed to instead of constantly rescheduling appointments, which is what I always did.
That's
And
what guys
so
do. A lot of
I
guys.
just found out that I am been diagnosed with prostate cancer. And the fact is, because I was focused on my health, they caught it early. Like there is a very good path for me here. But that happened because I have slowed down and focused on what's important. And so like you can't really put a price on that stuff. I'm happier. I'm a better marketer and leader as a consultant right now. Um, and I've grown. So I I view all of this with immense gratitude. And certainly looking around this world right now, I know for a fact we have better than millions, if not billions of people. And so like it's gonna be okay. And also I'm a white man in the United States of America. I think it's gonna work out.
Wow. I mean, I think that it's really incredible that you've been able to shift to a mindset of gratitude from all that because those are not small things that you just discussed at all. And, any one of those could be pretty soul breaking. And I'm sure there were moments when it felt that way for
Absolutely.
sure. But
Certainly dark
by and
moments
large,
and feelings of despair and frustration and anger and resentment and bitterness, like all of that stuff. But I don't have that now.
wow. That's, I mean, I think that's really moving. And I think it's ultimately a message of hope, which is something in short supply right now. So thank you for that.
And you're welcome.
It's remarkable sometimes how paths lead you to the place where you need to be, even if it doesn't look like that on the outside at all until you get there and you're like, oh, huh, right? So I am so glad you were able to slow down to focus on your health so that you can get the diagnosis that you have now, which obviously it sucks to have that diagnosis, but it would have sucked a lot worse if you hadn't gone to the
Completely.
doctor. So thank God you did.
Completely.
It's something that I mean, it's kind of like that's really everything, right? And so many of us, myself included, at times like push that off because it's inconvenient to stop the hamster wheel of life. But if you don't, it can have really, really severe consequences. And I mean, stuff that you don't even wanna think about, right? But, so I think it's funny sometimes how life lines things up and the dominoes fall in a way that, like, actually kinda saved you, right? And gave you this gift of time with your mom and all that, and that perspective is really great and doesn't negate that it was all really sucky to go through. But I think that's really awesome that you can reframe it in that way and share that with other people so that they can also try and take the silver lining and have it move them forward. And I think you're right. You may have been forced into this sort of gig type work by the world at some point, like beyond, what's happening now. So I think you kind of are getting an earlier look at what the rest of us will be doing pretty soon. And another thing you brought up when you were talking about the work is something I want to go deeper on, which is that because there's a lot of talk about like just build a side hustle or like everybody needs to be ready for a portfolio career. But when you're a business of one, agency of one, as you called it, you wear a lot of hats. And thankfully you're a startup guy, so you've worn 17 hats. But how how has that shift been? Because, like you said, you had to become a salesperson. That's not your trade. but that is your role as an agency of one.
Well, it's a path of like figuring out and making mistakes and learning from those mistakes and listening to the feedback, whether it's the rejection or being ghosted or being promised something and then you never hear from them again. Like I've been through all of that in this, but then things slowly clicking. And so it's been interesting in that I got advice from a very established consultant, premium, who's been doing it for years and like has it figured out. And she said to me one day, the idea that is security in corporate America is such a myth. And I think that's very clear today. And so she said, are you going to bet on that or are you going to bet on yourself? And that really hit me because I'm like, yes, I am going to bet on myself here. And I think when I really embraced that, things started to change. You know, there's a mental side where it's hard to get rejected all the time.
Oh God, yeah.
Or deal with moving timelines or expectations that change. And so it's been great because mentally I'm much stronger. There's the day-to-day of how do you manage time? How do you structure billing? How are you managing all your content and spreadsheets? Like all of that stuff that could either borrow from previous jobs or implement. And then the big thing I'd say it's really accelerated for me is the use of AI and how it can augment the work that I'm doing. And so I definitely feel like I've gotten a head start on where things are going for all of us. It's still a work in progress for me and I'm still learning. And, you know, when you're consultant, you have to get really comfortable with short term. You know, and it's like you can have business for the next 3 months lined up and that feels incredible. But you have no idea what will happen on month 4. And so you always have one eye on that. And so it's also like being a BDR and sales development.
Yep.
And I've managed those teams and I've always had so much respect for them because I would be
Me
so
too.
bad at it.
Oh,
And it's so hard. And now I'm doing it. So
and
it's
now you're
also
doing
like
it.
the comedy of life in play as well.
Right. We're all going to have to be BDRs to some degree, right? It really is true. And coming to terms with that, I think is going to be difficult for a lot of us, but it's here. And, you know, you touched on something there, which is the advent of AI and what it's made possible for you. And there recently was a report that came out that was about the ageism that there is when it comes to considering candidates of over 50, essentially, or actually even over age 35, and how infrequently people are likely to consider them for roles that have AI involved in their jobs, which, like, if you're looking around the room right now, you're talking to people or you're reading the news at all, that's like a mandate now. Everybody is supposed to be using AI to do their jobs. Even though no one knows how to use it, companies are like, you better be using it. And oh, by the way, tell us how it works because we don't know, right? So, like, I think it's really important that people, I mean, whether you like it or not, this is kind of like a situation, the genie's out of the bottle. We're all going to have to use AI. It's just a mandate. It's not a nice to have, it's a need to have now for an employee. And I would argue also for someone who's trying to go it alone, because there's just, unless you have a bunch of capital to throw at it and you can hire people or, you know, services, you really, you're going to need to do more with less, right? So you're kind of getting a crash course on AI that I think the average corporate employee might not be getting to the same degree, that can then be leveraged for you in many different ways, including internally at consulting gigs with these corporations. But yeah, I mean, it's, I think a lot of the AI stuff, in my view, has to do with mindset too, right? It's like, this thing is here. So, you know, I've talked to people, friends of mine even, who are like, I refuse to use AI. And I'm like, I don't think that you're making the statement you think you are by refusing it. Like, I get the inclination, and I too was like, ooh, not for me at all when I first started coming across it. But this is the way the world is moving, and you kind of got to get on board. And there are aspects to it that are super hopeful and exciting and unlock and democratize access to company building and innovation at a level that I don't think we've ever seen before. Truly, for like anyone possibly who has like $20 a month to throw at a tool, right? that's cool. That's hopeful. That's a level setter, right? And a equalizer, which I love. There's some darker things about it too. And as a person who is creative, I lament the overuse of AI in content creation that I see all over, especially in LinkedIn. That's just
Yeah.
like, really, dude, like you have to use AI to write a comment to something on my post. Like, I literally had a person send me a direct message and he forgot to take the prompt out. And I'm like, man, you can't like write an exchange with another human. Like, come on, have more faith in yourself, right? Like, so there's some of it that is really, I think, bad, but then there's the hopeful element. So, I mean, especially for you as a creative and a marketer, like, what are some messages of hope that you can give everybody when it comes to AI?
I heard this quote recently, and I don't remember who said it, but in relation to AI, it was a really good analogy in that the writers of yesterday are the editors of today. And,
Wow.
I think we are very much becoming guides of AI.
We are prompt
And
engineers, all of us.
and it doesn't mean it's going to replace our jobs. I think it's going to replace a ton of them,
Yeah.
but it's not necessarily going to replace the value that we can bring or our expertise if we are complementing it with good AI usage. That's my theory. Now, I just heard the Spotify CEO say that there are no new hires unless it can be proven that it
Yeah.
can't be done by AI. So maybe there is no hope.
Hopefully it's just like every other revolution where there's some displacement initially and then things kind of even out and more creation happens. That's what I'm hoping for.
So,
But
yeah. So my hope here is, especially in marketing, is that I have no doubts that AI can do a lot of the science behind marketing, automation, optimization, analytics, nurture campaigns, all of that stuff. And we need help there. But I think when it comes to the creativity and the way that humans can create connections that unite humans, I'm not sure if AI can ever do that or not. I hope not. So if not, then I think there's a lot of room for creatives.
yeah, corporate could use a little bit more creativity and a lot more humanity.
I agree completely. It doesn't seem the direction we're headed in right now, but I also believe that pendulums swing back and forth throughout history.
Yes. Couldn't agree
So
with you
I
more.
think we'll come back to that. Look, my dream is get a dumb phone, delete my LinkedIn profile, uh, and go work some land with some chickens and stuff and bake.
Hey.
That's my goal. But until then, I'm betting on myself and going for it and having fun.
Well, I don't think we could end on an any more hopeful note than that. So, Daniel, thank you so, so much for sharing your story. I know you've been through a lot and you've overcome a lot, and I know you're going to build something super special until you get that farm. It's going to happen, I believe.
Thank you.